Welcome to Promo Perspectives, a podcast presented by Sage, dedicated to giving promotional products, suppliers, and distributors tips, tricks, and insights to help them grow their businesses. Welcome back. I am Gabe Gotay, Senior Marketing Coordinator here at Sage, joined once again by Patrick Harvot, our Distributor Sales Team Lead. Welcome back to the show, Patrick.
I appreciate you having me again.
In case for some reason somebody skipped the first couple episodes in this series, why don't you go ahead and reintroduce yourself and your role here at Sage?
Yeah, so again, my name's Patrick Harvot. I'm one of the Distributor Sales Team Leads. So been here about 6 years. Probably work with a lot of you watching this, which, hi, if we haven't met. But no, this is one of my favorite topics. I mean, company stores, fulfillment can be scary, can be, a little intimidating, but at the end of the day, it means you're making money, right? So
yeah, we cover a lot on the podcast, and I love all my topics equally, I swear. But this is really where the bread and butter of the industry is. This is where money is made, is actually fulfilling your order. So it tends to be where we have the most questions, right?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of transacting, a lot of back and forth between end buyers and vendors and all that stuff, but it's fun.
Well, like I mentioned, this is actually the third episode in a series, so it's a really simple topic, right? What do we need all these episodes for?
I know.
But
we could have done it in one.
We could have
We'd have been here all day, though.
Yeah, 1 3-hour webinar. We could have covered all of it. But, so in the first couple episodes, we really just scratched the surface. It was just Patrick and I. We talked about gathering customer requirements, some of the different options on fulfillment and order processing. But with everything we gave, we had to give the caveat of this is how one person might do it, this is how another person might do it, and you really do need to speak to your Sage Account Advisor for some specific advice on your business. So what we thought would be helpful would be having some actual distributor guests on to tell us how they do it. So in that vein, we had Jill and Michael from Corporate Pride come on and tell us a little bit about some of the stores and showrooms that they use and how they handle fulfillment. So kick us off, I had Jill and Michael introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their stores.
Hi, I am Jill Houston. I'm the owner of Corporate Pride. I have been a distributor for over 25 years, and this is year number 4 on my own. So have a lot of industry experience.
I'm Michael Barber. This is my 26th year in the promotional products industry. Have spent all of those working with Jill. We worked together at a previous company, and after Jill and I both exited that company and she had started Corporate Pride, I had some clients that had needs, and Jill and I teamed back up, and she is the leader and the take charge person for Corporate Pride, and I follow right along. Yeah. So we're currently have a store that we're running for a client that came about just because they were doing some hiring, and they wanted to offer their new hires the opportunity to purchase some apparel, some branded apparel with their company logo. And so we set up a Sage store, put maybe 15 to 18 wearable items out on the store, and each individual gets an allotted budget. That budget ranges anywhere usually from $50 up to $300 per person. I think depending upon their rank within the company determines how much they get. They can go on to the site, place an order. They enter in their promo code, discount code, however you want to term that, and it takes that off of their total. Of course, having the option to purchase over their allotted amount with a credit card. So far, it has been a kind of a collect and run. We're actually in conversations with them to possibly have that as a year-round store that's active all the time, or we may be doing that just on a quarterly basis. Maybe doing once every 3 months, we'll turn the store on for 30 days, collect all the orders and process. And currently they're shipped to one central location for the company, and then they distribute. That may change as we roll into the future, but for now it's working fantastic.
Patrick, would you say that what Michael described there is a pretty typical example of how a distributor would use a store?
Oh yeah, I mean that's the golden boy example. I mean, and the way that he described, like, and it kind of falls back on some of the episodes that we've done in the past, but with the different types of checkout options. So in his case, offering like the promo codes. So there's already an allotted budget. So he's already getting paid, whether the employee places the order or not. He's already getting paid. So yeah, I mean, he's the quintessential, what I would refer to as a pop-up store, where he, I think, called it turn and run or something like that. I can't remember what he said there, but no, it's a perfect example of how you can execute a store, no doubt.
Well, and in a lot of the other episodes we've been talking about how do you even get to the point where you have a store. And you asked Michael an interesting question when we were interviewing him, which was, how did that opportunity come to be? Were they already taking orders before and then it turned into a store, or how did that happen? And this is kind of what he had to say there.
So, from my understanding, they were working with a different distributor, and were just not getting the level of service that they wanted. And I had a contact within the company that put me in touch with the right people, and we just kind of took it over from there. So it's something they had been doing previously, but it's new for us.
And we launched to them with this as an option. And so because it was super easy to put a couple items up and say, hey, is this what you guys had in mind, without any commitment? And then they said, that's exactly what we want.
Yeah.
And so it's been a good opportunity for this client. And I know Michael's working with a couple others, and I continue to show it as an option as well.
I thought it was really interesting what Jill said there about how the store, even like before it's actually launched and working as like an order and fulfillment tool, that it can be a really great sales and marketing tool on the front end.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was genius what they did there, kind of put together a demo store to kind of knowing what the customer is going to want without knowing what they want. And it was obvious that that's going to streamline their process a lot better than what they were dealing with before. So great move on their part.
Yeah. And it's like, if you can come with actually showing the solution and not just talking about it, it's a great sales tool.
Oh, yeah.
That's why like demos are so effective.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So, we kind of moved there to talking about how it's a service that distributors are actually providing. And Jill, when we were setting up this interview, she said something really interesting in an email that was like, these allowed her to go from being an order taker to being a consultant. So we kind of asked her to elaborate on that a little bit. This is what she had to say.
Well, that was actually my pushback in the beginning to offering these stores, because I always felt I wanted to have that personal interface with clients. So it wasn't like they were just going to order from one of the online distributors that is available in our industry. So I kind of pushed back against wanting to offer these things, because then I felt like I wasn't of value. But what I found is, even though the primary thing that I'm talking about, which we can get into, is the showroom feature within our website, is I set up this private showroom for my clients, because I really only have one client that ever reorders similar products. Like, oh, those dry erase markers we did for that would be great for this event. Can we get some? And we were just having so many back and forth emails about the same products all the time. Can I get current pricing? Are these in stock? All that type of thing. So I said, okay, let me try this. I'm going to set up a showroom within my website, and it's password protected, so only the client can see it. And it has just been a godsend. It's made it so easy for them. They have their site, they go on, they say that they need 500 of this, 1,000 of that, where to ship it to. And it's a really huge time saver on both of our sides. It eliminates a lot of back and forth of the emails. And then what that's freed me up to do is still be in that consultant type space that I prefer to live in, because then I'm solving other problems for them. Or when they need, quotes on something totally different for a bigger scale project, I'm not bogged down with the 500 piece reorder of those dry erase markers I was talking about. So I found it to be really efficient.
So far, Jill and Michael have really been kind of talking to us about the why behind a store, but the real meat of this topic is the how, right? Like, how are people fulfilling? So the next thing that we asked Michael was, what was his actual process from order taking all the way through delivery?
So currently, what we're doing is, again, we're collect and run. So we're collecting all of the order info, and from that point, creating a spreadsheet, basically to send to our decorator. Once they receive the blank goods, we order the blank goods, ship them to the decorator. And once they receive the blank goods, they are doing the embroidery and also bagging and labeling with the individual's name, and then bulk shipping to the business location for them to distribute. We are currently discussing that the the finished goods will then come to me. Side project, I also own a warehousing company where we do handle a lot of fulfillment. So we are discussing that the finished goods will come to my warehouse, and we will distribute and ship directly to each individual's location instead of the office for them to then distribute.
Well, he just mentioned at the end there, it also ties into something we talked about back in the last episode, which were these 3PLs, right? Like a third-party warehousing. Just in case, again, somebody managed to jump to this episode first, can you quickly recap why somebody might use a service like Michael's?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of recap that up, it'd be big quantities of products, right? So they have no means to store that in their location, or their client has no means to store it in their location, but they need quick turnaround. So historically, that's when you're going to work with a warehousing company. The other would be the kitting. So he actually mentioned something that's pretty common there. The decorator actually bagging and stamping with the individual's name on it. A lot of fulfillment centers will actually take care of doing the kitting. So on the previous episode, we talked about like those new hire kits that have a mug and a pen and a t-shirt and all that stuff. You can have all that stuff shipped to the warehouse. They have it all in stock. So as the kit gets ordered, they produce the kit, ship the kit out.
Right. Well, and we did ask Michael to kind of expand on that a little bit and kind of get the insider perspective on what it's like to run one of those services. And here's what he had to say.
Yeah, a lot of what a lot of the projects that we handle, of course, we have daily fulfillment. We have a few clients that we're processing their e-commerce orders and sending out a few hundred orders a day on their behalf. Excuse me. But we also work with a lot of promotional products distributors on their kitting projects. So if company A is selling a wearable, a cap, an ink pen, and a mug to one of their clients, they'll send those items into us, and with either a what we call a pretty box, a printed box, or we will just pack those into a standard white shipper or brown shipper, depending upon their budget. We can add in crinkle paper, tissue paper, lay that out where the brand is showing, and process those and send them out to all their individual locations. We recently completed one for a client where we sent out over 20,000 pieces, 20,000 individual shipments for a client.
Michael is definitely the industry expert in promotional products fulfillment.
So in the first episode we did on fulfillment, we talked a lot about gathering customer requirements, but you had a really interesting question from them about kind of the other side of that coin, which is setting customer expectations, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, initially when we had that conversation with them, we asked them how they initially approached the customer with like time frames on orders, how long they might need if we're fulfilling within 1 to 2 business days, or if there's a said production time. So,
yeah. Here's what they had to say.
Once we kind of laid out how they wanted this to work, and we, kind of researched all of our options and came back to looking at Sage as our best option, most efficient option, then we, met with the client, kind of set the expectation of, okay, in this scenario, the way you want it to work, that it's possible that someone that places an order on day 1 of the site being active could possibly have to wait until you have a straggler that doesn't place theirs until day 30. And at that point, then the production time actually starts. So you're could possibly be looking at, 4 to 6 weeks from the time someone places an order to the time of receipt. So that was important in setting that expectation up front. And knowing that on the front end has now that they know that on the front end, it's not been an issue.
And a lot of times in this instance too, I think it's because the company is paying for the bulk of the order. They might go over a few bucks if there's something else they really want to, if they really like it. So I think that their people know like, oh, we'll get it when we get it. It's not as much of a rush. But that timeline can also be shortened if the client's like, okay, no, we're giving them a week. Whoever orders, within that turnaround time, it's fair game. But we do have some great contract decorators who get things done incredibly fast for us once those orders, land in their inbox. So we're lucky that way.
Well, and once we kind of talked about like setting and coming to an agreement with the customer on customer expectations, the next question I had for them was, do those expectations influence the types of products that they would include in the store?
Well, we've been with Michael's program and it being apparel. We always know we used to partner with a couple of different apparel vendors, and then it was like, oh, if you're not meeting that $200 free shipping minimum, or it's not going to a PSST decorator for Sanmar, one of those partners, that got a little bit tricky. So we have pared it down to where we only offer apparel from one wholesaler, just to make that easier.
Yeah.
And so then that helps not have to calculate shipping as one big aspect of adding every single piece. So so Sanmar is who we've used, and they've been a great partner for that. Well, I will say, just because I was talking to Patrick about it the other day, for a friend who was interested, another distributor friend who was interested in coming over to Sage for her company's website, and we were talking about the different levels. So the professional site is the one that allows access to having those showrooms. And again, just the difference in price on an annual basis from the basic store to this professional store or site, is a no-brainer because of the amount of time it's saving. So I think if anyone's curious in that, just the opportunity to have those showrooms is such a big benefit. And I would not have said this 5 years ago. I think stores are great for larger companies that have, so-and-so's got their company credit card and they have to charge it there. And the one that I use the showroom for is a smaller nonprofit organization. So it's all streamlined. They want to receive an invoice, everything like that. So it's really just knowing your customer and their needs. And again, that extra that we pay for the professional Sage site pays for itself by not having to nickel and diming the client. And where it is so easy just to do that showroom is, hey, this is a free benefit I can give you.
Well, and what she said there, it really ties into what we talked about earlier, some of the differences between a showroom and a store and why you would use either of each. And Jill just, I think, gave a really great example on why you might use a showroom and how it can evolve into a store.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I said this before, it's kind of the introductory stage, but she said it herself. Like, really, the long and short of it is you have to get to know your customer. If it doesn't make sense to nickel and dime them, to force them down the store route because it can be executed in a showroom, it's worth it.
Well, and it's like another thing she said there too, which we love a shout out. It's one of the best reasons to use that tier of the Sage website, because it is, you can set the unlimited, right? Unlimited showrooms at that
unlimited
tier. So you can set as many of them up as you like and really show to all your different customers the advantages. And then from there, move on to selling a store solution to handle the fulfillment of all of these repeat orders. So that was what we had for our interview with Michael and Jill from Corporate Pride. thanks y'all so much. We really appreciate you coming on to have the interview with us. And Jill, we saw you there in the Zoom on the live stream, so we really love the support. They were so excellent to talk to. I'm sure if you reach out to them with any of your own questions, they would be happy to answer those. And like we said in the other episode, that's also what your Sage Account Advisors are here for.
Absolutely.
We're going to have another bonus episode with Jack Meese from Print One is going to be the next episode that's coming out. And then after that, we're going to have an episode with a supplier. We're going to have Nick from SNS kind of cap off the full round view of that. Patrick, before we move on to those episodes, anything else you want to add here?
No, I just appreciate you having me on. And again, Jill, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I think it's good to hear a real life distributor's perspective from how they've started to where they're at now with showrooms and stores. So it was great to have them on.
All right. Well, keep an eye out for those episodes, and make sure you head to the Sage blog to see when the next live stream episode is going to be. It's always a great time, lots of interaction on there, and it's great to have people so that we can really expand and get ideas from all around the industry. So thanks so much for listening. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, Patrick.
Thanks.